Hello guys, welcome back to channel Tech Skill Builder. In last session, we have seen the important React hooks called useState. We have seen through the example as well, and we understood what is the difference between the normal variable and the state variable. Okay. Now in this session, we are going to learn another most important hook called useEffect. The useEffect hook in React Native or React let you perform side effect in functional components like fetching the data, setting up the subscription, timers, or manually updating the DOM. It replaces lifecycle method like component did mount, component did update, component will unmount from the class component. So let's have this how to write your use effect. Okay, use effect is a function. In that function, you can write the side effect logic. For example, if suppose you are making the API call or something, and this return function clean up the logic here. Okay, this is optional. But whenever you are created the listeners, okay, you register the listener that we need to release. We need to release the timer if suppose you have set the timer and all. While unmount, it will clean. Okay. So in second parameter is the array, dependency arrays. So first argument is the function that runs after render. Okay, this will run this side effect logic here that will run after render, and second argument is a dependency array that controls when the effect runs. For example, you are making the API call and there are the multiple pages. Okay, as soon as next page you are increasing, you are trying to make the API call for next page. As soon as the page count increase, and then this use effect will call. Okay, so whatever the variables you will pass here, dependencies array, okay, comma separated dependency array. So as soon as that variable value change, that these functions get called. Okay, so use effect in different scenario. There are a different scenarios we have. So default behavior with no dependency array runs after every render. For example, you are pressing the button continuously, so every button click your use effect will call with no dependency. This is one scenario. Okay, this is initial mount, and every mount it will update. Second scenario is run only once, empty dependency array. So it runs only after the first render. It is like component did mount in the class component. Okay, so use effect, and second parameter is a second argument is a empty dependency array. So runs only once after initial render. Third option is use effect, and is just passing the value. Okay, so runs on specific changes. So runs after initially render and whenever the count changes. It's like component did update in the class component. So we'll see. So here we have passed the count in dependency array. As soon as the count value change, these functions get called, and okay, these functions get called. And last one is cleanup on mount or before rerun. So it's work as a component will unmount. It clean up the runs before effect reruns or when the component unmounts. So here we are passing the empty dependency array and we are returning. Okay, so we have taken here example of the timeout. Okay, timer we have taken. So whenever this component functional component is going to unmount, that time this return method will get called, and we are clearing the timer here. Okay, so use effect in different scenario. So first one is we have seen we are not passing any array, so it will render after every render it will get called. Okay, if suppose we are passing the empty array, it will call only after initial renders. Okay, as soon as your component started, that time it will get called. And passing some variable in a dependency array, so it will call after initial render also, and when any that particular listed variable changes. For example, count value change, so it will get call again. Okay, and another is with return. We have seen the return function, so it clean up the runs before rerun or unmount. Okay, so these are the different scenario of use effect. So this is a normal counter app that we have seen. So what we have taken, this is a count state variable, and this is a use effect. So as soon as you are increasing the count by 1, so here it's get reflect count variable. Okay, as soon as it will get reflected here, this method get called. Okay, so it will now counter value it will display here. So we'll see through the example. So let's see how the use effect will work by taking the example. Let's create a file, use effect hook demo.tsx. Okay, so just copy few things from here. Okay, Control A. Okay, let's remove this. Use effect hook demo. Effect hook demo. Okay. So what is happening? We have seen this as a state example. Now we will write use effect. Okay, use effect function. Inside that, okay, alert dot alert. Okay, this is a normal use effect. It will re-render every time. Okay, whenever there is a change. Okay, render calls every time. Okay, calls on every render. Okay, so let's check here. Import from src slash. Okay, let's try to run. Okay, so for example, see, if suppose I'm increasing the counter, calls every time. Okay, for even if suppose I'm just doing some other activity, but still it's getting every render. Okay, now we'll add dependency array. Okay, so calls on initial render only, right? Okay, so let's run again. Okay, okay, calls on initial render. So this method get call. Sorry, here we need to pass empty dependency array and save and rerun again. So we'll get exact scenario. Okay, so calls on initial render only. So this use effect is getting called. Click on OK. Increase the counter. Okay, so every time it is updating. So we have seen the difference about use effect without second argument, and second argument is a array of dependencies, and this use effect we have passed the second argument as a empty dependency array. Okay, so we'll run again and we'll check how it will work. Okay. Okay, so this is calling this use effect is calling Okay, so calls on initial render only. So both the calls on every render. Okay, so now see, if suppose I increasing the counter, calls on every render, but this use effect is not calling. So if suppose you pass empty dependency array as a second argument, then it will calls only on initial renders. Okay, but if suppose it's an there is no dependency array, empty or no dependency array, in that case it will call on every render. For example, I am increasing the counter and your UI is re-rendering, so that's the reason this use effect without any array will get called, but usually we will not use this without any array. Okay, we'll take another example of use effect having count value as a variable. Here we'll pass count. Okay, so what it will do, so it runs if count value will change. Okay, so how? Okay, runs when uh, the count sorry about this, when count variable value changes. Okay, let's save. So runs when the count variable changes. Okay, so we'll try to rerun again. Runs when, so all three methods will get call. Okay, runs when the count variable value changes, because here already we specified the count variable value is a 0. Okay, let's see, all three methods will get called. Now see, if suppose we are clicking on the increase counter, what will happen? So runs when count variable also changes and your every re-render this use effect we also call. So two pop-up should be there, run when count variable changes and the calls on every render. So let's see, it was there but it was dismissed. Okay, so every time that re-renders get called. If suppose you will comment this, then you will get to know. Okay, so call on initial render only. So these methods get call initial renders. Okay, every render, correct. So I hope you understood the difference between normal use effect without any dependency array, use effect with empty dependency array, and use effect with dependency variable. So dependency variable value changes, as soon as it changes, that particular use effect will execute. And when this empty dependency array use effect will run, it's a on initial render only. And use effect with no dependency array, it calls every time. For example, UI changes every time, it will call. Okay, usually this method we will not use. Okay, we'll use with the empty dependency array to make the API call, to add timers and all. So we'll see the timers also and how return works. To unmount, we need to release the variables or listeners on unmount. Okay, so another use effect with return one. Okay, so without dependency array, we'll take here const timer. Okay, and then set timeout. Okay, set timeout. And then what we'll do, console dot log. Okay, here we will say hello, and next argument is your timer. So we have given 1 second after. Okay, and then return to clean up the timer. Return so clear timeout and timer value object will pass here. So what it will do, it will clean your timer object, clean up the timer. Okay, so instead of this console log we will not get here. So what we will do, we'll just comment this for now. Okay, and just instead of console log, just alert dot alert, and we'll see how it works. See, after 1 second that object was, that particular dialog was open. Okay, save once. Okay, just try to run again. Okay, so after 1 second it was executed. Okay, and that release the timer also. It will release the timer as soon as it will unmount. So I hope you understood this useEffect hook, uh, how to use and when to use which hooks. So we have seen like this empty dependency array, it will cause initial render only, after initial render only, and by passing the dependency variable, whenever there is a change in that particular dependency variable, this hook, this useEffect will get executed, and this return, when it will return, whenever the you are going to unmount, your component going to unmount, that time it will get called and it will release the object or listeners here. Okay, so this is another very important, very important hook, and daily you can use, I mean whenever you are with any programming, any writing any component, so this is very useful. Okay, so do the practice on daily basis till you understand the concept of this hook and when to use which hooks. Okay, so I hope you like this video. Please like, share, and if suppose you are new to this channel, please subscribe so that you will get such interesting and informative technology related videos. Okay,